and find my way back to center. That is one thing I can assure you of. And I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That must have felt terrible.
Because I just have one on my list. I didn't have anyone on my list.
And then it wasn't funny anymore.
No, it's so much more of a bird. He's like, wait, who?
The revelation that the best-selling novel It Ends With Us would be converted into a film created an instant and overwhelming surge of enthusiasm among fans on social media. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, who were part of the creative team, were widely anticipated by many. And fascinating adaptation was promised by the mix of Baldoni's emotional writing and Lively's comedic timing and dramatic abilities. Preliminary illustrations indicated a comic twist on the novel's serious subjects, complemented by lavish costumes. However, enthusiasm rapidly turned into controversy when behind-the-scenes allegations developed, culminating to a stunning court fight. What started as a promising attempt quickly became a spectacle of rumors, courtroom disclosures, and a phone call that may determine the case's future. The film, supposed to be a poignant trip, became a struggle of reputations and claims. Although scandals involving prominent actors and actresses disputing over a much-loved book are nothing new in Hollywood, this one stood out. The anticipation started with Lively's casting, an apparent match for the complicated narrative. Fans were thrilled to see her take on such a difficult issue, while Baldoni's prior work promised an honest depiction. But as rumors and suspicions grew, the Amore project sank into turmoil, sliding from expectation to scandal.
A lot of it's my real-life clothes or my husband's clothes or my girlfriend Gigi's clothes. I was borrowing some...
Wait, that's kind of amazing. So you have something of Gigi's in the movie.
Yeah, it's like a wedding, like something old, something borrowed, something blue, something new.
Wait, which one? Now I want to think of the scene.
Oh, I'm wearing her stuff all over it.
Oh, really?
Tons of like Bodhi, which is with the suit now that I'm wearing is Bodhi. It was meant for my husband, but I borrowed it.
His suit?
It was meant for him to wear, but it's so pretty. Look at it. You guys are not getting it in the shot.
But there's no hesitancy. I'm happy to send it to you. And I'm sorry that has happened to you before. And I hope after this experience, there will be a new, I don't know. I hope it'll be healing in some way. Because that's all I want. I want this movie to be healing. I want this movie to be commercial, just like you, and affect people and touch people. And I want to walk you through my whole plan and the work that we're doing with the domestic violence partner that we found, No More, and just my vision. And I just know that this can be really, really special, and it's going to be special. And you're the secret sauce, and we're the secret sauce. And anyways, I have so much more to say. I'm going to stop rambling because Jesus Christ, it's been 6 minutes and 30 seconds. So me, I'm sorry. You probably have kids all over you and a baby on your boob, and you're listening to me ramble at 2 a.m. I hope you're feeling better, and give Ryan my love. Thank you for sending me that. It means the world to me that you trust me with your feelings and your thoughts like that. And I can't wait to spend more time with you. Okay, I'm done cutting myself off. Good night.
But insiders whispered of creative tensions emerging early on. One source stated Lively wanted to soften the tone with comedic aspects and exquisite set designs, toning down the novel's seriousness. Another stated Baldoni opposed, seeking an adaptation, closer to the novel's sad tone. Initially, these creative disagreements seemed like typical film concerns, but whispers became louder. Leaked stills hinted at the tug-of-war. Some presented a rom-com vibe, while others had a more dismal palette, reflecting the novel's emotional weight. The issue made news when Lively stepped out, alleging her ideas were rejected and she felt forced into pushing things she didn't like. She added that certain comedic or glamorous portions were foisted upon her, hinting at mounting discontent. Baldoni retaliated angrily, initiating a defamation case, arguing that Lively's statements may damage his professional reputation. The financial stakes were tremendous, maybe in the hundreds of millions. Observers commented that Baldoni's typically moderate PR style had changed to an all-out war of credibility, with each side striving to protect their creative vision, public image, and financial stability.
We always tease each other. He was, after I gave birth, he was like, oh my gosh, if I lost you and I, went to the park with our 3 kids, I mean, think of the ladies I can. Like, this is a horrible thing to say. And he's like, I mean, I've got a long list. And I was like, oh really? Because I just have one on my list. I didn't have anyone on my list.
And then it wasn't funny anymore.
No, it's so much more of a burn. He's like, wait, who? And I was like, think of someone. Think of someone. Bob Newhart. I don't know.
And find my way back to center. That is one thing I can assure you of. And I'm sorry I made you feel that way. That must have felt terrible. And I will for sure do better. That was not my best weekend, and I should have given it more time. And damn right, you got great friends if that's how you felt and they knew that. And we should all have friends like that, aside from the fact that they're 2 of the most creative people on the planet. The 3 of you guys together is unbelievable. Talk about energy and just a force, all 3 of you. But I just wanted you to know that I didn't need that, because it's really good and it's going to make the movie sing like you said. And I'm excited to go through the whole movie with you. I think you and I have been trying to build a relationship, which I think we've done successfully. I mean, here we are.
We always tease each other. After I delivered birth, he said, "What if I lost you? I'd take our 3 kids to the park and daydream about all the females I could meet." It wasn't hilarious anymore. I informed him I had no one on my list, and he was astonished. I don't know why I said it, but I simply needed a moment to gather myself. I apologized, understanding it wasn't right. I committed to do better, that it wasn't my finest weekend, and that I should have given it more time. I also noted how privileged he is to have fantastic friends that stand by him when necessary. Meanwhile, we both worked on creating our connection, which I think we've done effectively. Everyone expected an unpleasant, drawn-out trial with competing narratives and great drama. Few imagined the debate would escalate. Just as people felt the litigation couldn't grow more heated, fresh claims appeared. Baldoni suggested Lively, or someone on her side, may have inserted or manipulated materials to strengthen her claims. Email records and timestamps prompted questions regarding their validity, hinting to likely fraud. If true, this would be a major shock. Fans had formed an image of Lively as a class act, someone grounded in honesty. Why would she risk everything for doctored emails? On the other side, critics suggested if she felt lonely, she may have resorted to desperate efforts to fabricate proof. The entertainment world was quickly fascinated on the topic, with fans taking sides. Many questioned if Baldoni had proof strong enough to make such severe charges. Baldoni's supporters argued that the evidence was persuasive, pointing to discrepancies in email records. Lively's defenders, however, contended that any differences were simply mechanical failures or errors. The defamation lawsuit takes a backseat to a far broader question. Did someone invent an entire story? The case took another dramatic turn when Baldoni's lawyers revealed a phone call tape. The court was startled. Lively's team hadn't expecting such proof. Rumors rapidly circulated that the recording either indicated Lively pondering comic adjustments or exposed Baldoni's side as manipulating the tale to make her seem inconsistent.
I mean, honestly, the way that I get into a character is through their style. So it was more about who Lily is that was so fascinating to me, is that she's a walking, talking contradiction, yet it's perfectly harmonious for her.
Hey, Blake. It is 2 a.m. Hopefully this does not wake you up. Whew. Wow. There's so much I want to say to you, and I hope that we can FaceTime or see each other in person soon and get to talk more. But I'm just going to send you a few thoughts, and hopefully it's not going to be more than a few minutes. But I don't have the best track record. I don't think either one of us have the best track record for our voice memos. I want to start with an apology. Man, reading the second part of your message, my heart sank, and I'm really sorry.
There was even a third theory that the meeting didn't include Lively or Baldoni directly, but rather a high-level producer discussing Lively's promotional actions. The single conclusion was that the communication was so critical that exposing it in court may shift the whole legal landscape, with media outlets scrambling to broadcast the twist. Social media erupted with debate over whether the call was purposefully filmed for continuity or inadvertently captured and given to Baldoni's team by an insider. Each occasion sparked problems regarding the authenticity of the video and whether Lively had consented to being taped. When the private listening session completed, onlookers saw a shift in the courtroom mood. Lively, who had earlier looked poised, became tense and startled, grasping the ramifications of the recording. Media sources reported she lost control, expressing amazement and wrath, although many argued that she was only unhappy by the audio being taken out of context. Regardless of interpretation, it was apparent that the recording had placed Lively off balance, potentially complicating her argument. Her side argued the tape indicated nothing without full context, but the sight of her suffering further fueled the perception that her case was unraveling.
She said, just read it, because I was looking for movies that could be commercial and speak to the human experience. And
were you reading romance novels?
And I had never read a romance novel.
Never?
And she said, just trust me, read it. So I read it, and by the end of the book, I couldn't even read the text on the page because I was crying so much. My wife was in bed next to me, and she's, that snot coming out of my nose.
Talking like this, me into my phone at 2 a.m, but largely via text and voice note. And I will be honest with you, that is not my biggest strength. I love being with people and being in somebody's space and being face to face. And I feel like that's where I excel, and definitely fallen short at times in our text and voice note exchanges, because there's so much to communicate and there's so much happening. And all that to say, I'm just really looking forward to spending time together. And I think that's going to really go a long way for our chemistry, which I believe is there. It has been there from the start. So I was so damn excited when you wanted to do this film. I felt it in the room when we met. And, yeah, I think it does come from the both of us being so fucking hardworking and having a vision and not, settling.
If Bellen's team wanted to utilize this tape to illustrate she had before accepted amusing parts totally, they suddenly had the perfect moment, a rare instance of liveliness, seemingly taken off guard. Public reaction exploded online. Some fans thought that Lively had to be in the right, interpreting her emotional response as that of a victimized individual, realizing the level to which her statements may be distorted. Others felt gratified that presumably Baldoni had the proof to prove Lively's assertion was inconsistent. The fan base for It Ends With Us, which had earlier been unified in their enthusiasm for a long overdue film adaptation, fractured into vehemently opposed groups. Meanwhile, industry analysts theorized about the bigger actors acting behind the scenes. Baldoni has acquired trust from huge studios over the years, especially considering his track record of success on emotive productions. Rumors persisted that a corporate powerhouse like Disney may be surreptitiously supporting his legal methods, especially if he had existing or possible collaborations in the works. From Lively's position, that would feel like battling up an entire entertainment empire, not just one filmmaker. Many also inquired about Lively's contacts in the fashion and entertainment spheres. She'd created a strong network of designers and directors who liked her collaborative, ethical attitude. Some of these business professionals promptly flocked to her rescue, commenting on social media about times she provided unique advice without overstepping. They maintained that even if the phone call revealed her distaste with amusing touches, it was merely one piece of a broader puzzle, one that likely encompassed a changed studio vision, changing audience expectations, and compromises often necessary to keep a movie afloat. Through it all, the discussion got more difficult by the day, overshadowing the basic purpose, translating a work that people valued for its emotional honesty. The headline shifted from judging how well the picture may represent the book's essence to examining who was lying, who was expressing the truth, and what might be found next in the increasingly convoluted dispute. As the legal crisis worsened, the question lingering over everyone's head became, can this movie still happen? When a project of this kind is entangled in legal upheaval, it doesn't simply hurt the two primary protagonists. a whole production staff, plus the studios funding them, are in jeopardy. Some analysts speculated that if the dispute persisted, for long, the adaptation will be scrapped or restructured under a different creative team totally. Yet others reasoned that It Ends With Us remained such a high-profile property that the industry wouldn't allow it to vanish. Colleen Hoover's fan base had clamored for a film for so long, and many still believed that Lively and Baldoni may bring unique dimensions to the narrative if they ever struck a truce. Secret settlement talks were the center of considerable rumor.
It's a bit of a tough adjustment in our house, but it's good. I mean, I have two other daughters, so my oldest is very into the baby, but my middle child, not so much. But we're thinking of keeping her.
Does she like play with her? What does she think?
Well, she sort of like pretends to play with her. So like in the beginning, our oldest is like loving on her, and she's like very maternal, and then our middle daughter is just keeps away from her.
I for sure fell short, and you worked really hard on that, and the way you framed it, and how that made you feel. I just want to say thank you for sharing that with me. That takes a lot of trust and vulnerability, and I feel really grateful that you feel safe enough to tell me that that's how you feel and share that with me. And I'm really sorry. I fucked up. That is a fail on my part. One thing you should know about me is I will admit and apologize when I fail. I am far from perfect. I'm a very flawed man, as my wife will attest. And and I'm gonna fuck up. I'm gonna say the wrong thing. I'm gonna put my foot in my mouth. I'm gonna piss you off, probably, but I will always apologize.
With other reports indicating that both sides may prefer to bury the hatchet if it meant saving the project's reputation. But the dangers were significant, not just financially, but also personally. Public opinion of each star's integrity had come under severe inspection, making a straightforward settlement less realistic. Meanwhile, the rest of Hollywood watched intently, conscious that how this case played out may establish a precedent in an era when behind-the-scenes interactions are usually hush-hush. The notion of leaked phone calls and alleged document tampering would make potential partners more cautious. Stars might be reluctant to uncover creative problems or speak out about being neglected if the consequence is a defamation lawsuit, possibly hundreds of millions. Directors, in turn, might become more guarded, monitoring and preserving every encounter for legal protection. In this climate, honesty can become the first casualty. So here we stand at a juncture where a single phone conversation, presented in court, may determine the future of a complete film adaptation. Will the audio be the smoking evidence that disproves Lively's account of feeling pressured? Or will it backfire on Baldoni if it's considered incomplete or misleadingly edited? And what about the larger charges of falsified evidence? Were the documents actually modified, or have inherent inconsistencies been weaponized to build a narrative? One thing is certain, the stakes have gone way beyond the original enthusiasm over a treasured literature moving to the screen. Both Lively and Baldoni find themselves embroiled in a conflict that tests not just their professional reputations, but their personal images in an industry where your next job can hinge on how the public perceives you. Neither side can afford a massive misstep. Every fresh leak, every whispered narrative, every fragment of alleged proof becomes a prospective turning point. Fans, for their part, are caught in the crossfire. Those who anticipated a sensitive, honest portrayal of It Ends With Us are now consumed with legal intricacies and finger-pointing. Talks that traditionally focused on whether dramatic scenes from the text would translate best to movie have changed into talks over amusing sections, corporate influence, and hush-hush phone calls. While some remain optimistic that the project will move forward, others believe the adaptation, should it ever be completed, would be overshadowed by the horrific past that has taken on a life of its own. Hollywood thrives on drama, and occasionally that drama spills over from the screen into real life. In this situation, the conflict playing off-camera has become a narrative in its own right. It's a painful reminder that the creative process may be filled with power disputes and conflicting ideas, and when enormous personalities clash, the effects can be great. For Blake Lively, the emotional moment in court may endure as a defining picture. a point in time when a scrupulously managed public image collided with legal tactics and covert recordings. For Justin Baldoni, the prospect of crafting another major adaptation hangs in the balance related to a challenging litigation that few anticipated. As more evidence comes to light, the scenario continues to evolve. Maybe further phone calls may surface, indicating Lively's or Baldoni's intentions all along. Or perhaps a surge of additional witnesses, studio executives, and digital forensics. Specialists will confuse the waters even further. Regardless, the final verdict, legal and public, will have permanent ramifications. In Hollywood, reputations can transform in the blink of an eye, and a single piece of information may flip a tale on its head. Right now, the phone call stands as the greatest wildcard of them all. Will it ends with us ever rise from these courtroom ashes to become the emotional adaptation millions hoped for? Or will it remain an unfinished project best remembered for the brutal struggle and alleged betrayals that threw the production into turmoil? The truth may take months, if not years, to entirely surface. Until then, Blake Lively's astonished expression upon hearing the newly unearthed tape remains an iconic picture of how swiftly fortunes can shift, even for the greatest stars in Hollywood. And while the legal dance continues, one thing remains painfully clear. The lines between real-life drama and cinematic narrative have never been more blurred.